We're talking fighters to watch in 2015. We are making the rounds here on ESPN.com. Jim Basquil alongside Brian Campbell. Dan Rafael will join us in a moment. This is a good one, Brian, because it focuses on the individuals to look forward to in the coming year rather than the dream matchups. Which fighter do you think takes a major step forward in 2015?
I think without question it's Vassil Lomachenko, the Ukrainian, the featherweight titleist. Look, in 2014, we saw Lomachenko basically redefine what it means to dare to be great. In just his second pro fight, moving up, fighting for a title, losing to Orlando Salido in a close fight, but learning a lot from that, coming back, beating Gary Russell for the title. I think, out of his Eastern European counterparts over the last 2 years, Ruslan Provodnikov, Triple G, Sergey Kovalev, he might not get the fanfare so far that they have, but he might be better than all three in the long run. And I think he's going to get that chance this year to push himself commercially up to the level where he may already be critically. He's getting closer to that, Jim. I think he's got a chance this year to make that leap from a pound-for-pound sense, to make that leap from a American cable headlining sense in an absolutely loaded division at 126. He's going to have all the chances in the world to do that. Absolutely. ESPN Boxing Insider Dan Rafael, what is your fight, or fighter, I should say, to watch for 2015?
Well, on the one hand, if you want to take a look at some of the younger guys, Jim, you have some of the prospects that I really like who I think are going to make a big leap in terms of moving up the ladder in 2015. Now, the prospect here was Felix Verdejo. I'm not sure he's ready to make that leap, but some other guys on that list I think are ready to take the next step, and we'll see that during the coming year. I'm talking about welterweight Errol Spence Jr. He's a tremendous talent. Heavyweight Anthony Joshua, who won the Olympic gold medal, is going to be taking a step up. And also Gilberto Ramirez, the Mexican southpaw, who's going to debut this year on the undercard of the third fight between Mike Alvarado and Brandon Reyes. All those guys, I think, have a chance to step up and move from prospect status into more contender status. But in terms of a more established fighter, I think you can see the continued evolution of Terrence Crawford, who is our fighter of the year. He's going to be moving up to 140 pounds. There's going to be opportunities there. He can already had a great year in 2014. Next year, he can have even a bigger year if he can get the right fights. And I'm going to throw another one in there. The heavyweight champ of the world, Vladimir Klitschko. He's coming back to the United States in April for his first fight here since 2008 when he unified against Sultan Ibragimov. Most likely going to take on Brian Jennings if he's going to fight in America. And there's some, at least for the April fight. And then there's some interesting fights that will open up for him. In addition, perhaps the winner of Stavern versus Wilder for all the belts. Perhaps the fight that's a mandatory against the big British fighter Tyson Fury, which would be a very hot fight, I think. He's got a chance to. Not only he's already a great fighter in going into the history books, but he can continue to add to the great legacy that he's in the process of establishing.
So Dan gives us a potpourri of different weight classes here to look forward to. This is us looking into the crystal ball, if you will, for the coming year. Tell me which fighter, though, Brian, that is going to surprise us big time in a positive sense in 2015.
Well, surprise could be a selective word depending on what group you're looking at. Look, hardcore fans, they know a name that Dan mentioned there, Errol Spence Jr., the 24-year-old unbeaten welterweight out of Dallas. Look, he was the guy from that 2012 U.S. Olympian class that really gives you the most promise for the future. I think he's going to surprise a lot of casual fans that may not really know a lot about him here. He's been toiling on the undercards, just impressing us with every step up. If he gets that chance this year to really make that leap, maybe get into a big-time cable co-main event type situation, start to face the big names, I think he's in the same spot right now where Terrence Crawford, our fighter of the year this year, was a year ago, where he started to take those steps up, started to fight some name guys. You really got to see how good he was. When you look at what Errol Spence Jr. has right now in his tool belt, nothing's missing. And that is very promising. I think he's going to have a big year.
Where is he from?
From Dallas.
He's got to have a collection of fights in Dallas, right? Like the Nebraska man does.
We've got a future in promoting.
Dan, tell us which fighter that maybe we've written off, if you will, that's going to turn it around in 2015.
Well, in terms of what a guy who had a year in 2014, he'd probably rather forget. I'll go with Nonito Donaire. He got knocked out by Nicholas Walters, lost his featherweight title. Really a really rough fight for him. But after that fight, he did say that he was thinking about going back down to 122 pounds and has made that commitment, where I think he's probably best served. So if he goes back down to 122 pounds, I think we can still see some interesting fights and some good accomplishments out of Nonito Donaire, who was just a couple years ago the fighter of the year by acclamation, not just ESPN.com, but pretty much anybody who picks a fighter of the year. And I'm going to also throw in Sean Porter, the welterweight. He lost his title in August to Kell Brook. He was getting a lot of hype at that time. People thought he was going to roll on toward towards even putting his name into the Floyd Mayweather conversation. It didn't happen. He lost a tough fight, but he's a young guy. He's a very talented fighter, and I think we'll see a nice comeback from Sean Porter in 2015.
Yeah, Dan, I think my partner right here was the one that had Porter with Mayweather.
I was driving that bandwagon, all right?
Those are fighters to watch in 2015, the coming year in boxing. For Brian Campbell and, of course, Dan Rafael, I'm Jim Basquil, and we are making the rounds right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com.